Here.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
I'm here.
trustee Napoli Bellarice,
Here.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Here.
trustee Johannes,
Here.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Here.
trustee Quinlan.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. In the 250th anniversary of the Navy, Trustee Withrow is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Student trustee Parmigiani,
Here.
student trustee Byrne,
Here.
trustee Whitrow,
Here.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yeah.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Here.
Trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Johannes,
Here.
trustee Gonzalez Brito,
Yes.
trustee Quinlan.
Here.
Motion passes.
Yes, don't hear for yeses, right?
Is there any public communication of items that are not on the agenda?
First off, we have Louis Martinez, I apologize.
Hello, my name is Louis Martinez. I'm from the College of Alameda. I'm a project manager for EOPS CARE, CalWorks, and Accepted program. I just want to say thank you for approving the resolution to celebrate the 55th anniversary of the EOPS program. But one story that I wanted to just share with you is that from EOPS, we developed a new program called Salam Learning Community, which is an extension of EOPS. And that didn't just happen by overnight. And I wanted to share like what you can do is to support courageous leaders within our district. And that courageous leaders that help support me was Tina Vasconcelos. And I wanted to share that with folks to let her know that it was an idea that two of us came and we saw that from an empirical students that were Southwest Asian, North African, and buses that I ride at 51 or 72, I saw them coming here. And I said, if they're coming here, that means we need to provide support. So I just wanted to share that information with you and talk about supporting brave leadership and coming and visiting us here at the College of Alameda. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next, we have Matthew Goldstein.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry to be yelling at you. Matthew Goldstein, I'm the president of the District Academic Senate. I'm here tonight, as usual, to address you on behalf of the Senate, but actually because I'm a COA faculty member, I just wanted to welcome the board to the island. I teach humanities here when I'm not wearing my DAS cap, so I wanted to let you know that it's a nice place to be and it's great to have you. I wanted to say too that faculty lobbied for years to get the board to do the circuit of all the colleges, and faculty are quite pleased that you've completed that circuit this year, and we're looking forward to seeing you do it again in upcoming years. Just to add to your burden, I would say it'd be nice to see the trustees visit all of the cities in our district as well, which there's some precedent for. It happened several years ago. I know that's a heavy lift for the PCTV folks, but I think it's worthwhile to do that kind of community outreach. But again, thanks for coming to the island. Thanks for doing the 4-college tour and wrapping up here at the College of Alameda. We appreciate it.
Next, we have Heather Cisneros.
Well, hello there. I sort of took over some of Matthew Goldstein's information that he gives to you guys. My name is Heather Cisneros. I am officially kinesiology faculty at Laney College, but I am also currently the district lead for the initiatives AB 1111 and AB 928 which we are so lovingly living right now. And instead of Goldstein giving his report on it, I figured we needed all 3 minutes to just talk about 1111 and 928. So one of the things that I just want to make folks aware of is there are phases that are coming through in this 1111 Common Course Numbering Initiative across the California community colleges. All 116 community colleges have been told that they are going to have Common Course numbering. English 1A is going to be English 1A across all of the community colleges, so that's easier for the students to know that they have fulfilled that requirement. So I want to actually do some recognition of the folks who are behind the scenes doing this work. At Laney College alone, phase 1 had 7 courses. Sounds easy. Updated in Curriculum Meta, make sure you talk to the faculty. The thing we don't think about is those 7 courses are prerequisites for other courses. They're in programs. So now throughout Peralta, we ended up having to update over 121 courses because they were prerequisites or co-requisites or advisories. We had to update over 100 programs just to make our deadline for phase 1. We are now in phase 2, part A. There are, what did I get to? There are 7 courses in Peralta that we are working through updating. Of that, it impacted over 96 pieces of curriculum. Take into consideration, Laney College averages about 300 pieces of curriculum every year for regular updates, deactivations, creating new courses or programs. So now we're putting this on top of what our curriculum specialists, our curriculum chairs, and our articulations get to do, along with engaging faculty. I think the key piece to understand is there ended up being an extra lift because the whole philosophy was there is one template created for a course and all the community colleges follow that template. It's articulated, we're good to go. The CSUs and the UCs said, we don't really have a way to evaluate a template. So we're going to have to go ahead and evaluate every single one that comes in from all of the California community colleges. So we are working through having to submit things, waiting. Is it going to get articulated?
20 seconds.
Holding pattern, catalogs need to be updated. This is all Common Course numbering. So I want to put a shout out to every curriculum chair, specialist, articulation officer, all the behind the scenes that they are doing. So just know that it's going to continue going. Who knows when all the phases will be addressed because we're only in phase 2. They've already identified courses for phase 3 and 4. And we're just waiting year by year to continue to work together. And I will tell you, this district has worked together on all of these projects, and it's been really nice to see that collaboration amongst all 4 colleges. So I just wanted to give you an update on what 1111 is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Laney Gassis.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Elena Gastis. I'm the department chair of the journalism department at Laney College. And I'm here with my amazing students from the Citizen who come to every single board meeting and participate actively in democracy. Woo! I'm going to save all the bragging about my students for the future board meeting, but you can rest assured that we have some very, very exciting news coming from the journalism department. I'm here tonight in a little bit of a different capacity with a very heartfelt and genuine reflection for you all. During my time as Senate President in 2021 and 2022 and Vice President for the 4 years before that, I'm going to be very blunt and let you know that the conditions that I served in, I would consider to be very hostile. I heard our former chancellor at the time say that we should use the term participatory governance instead of shared governance because faculty don't share any of the responsibility around here. And that was difficult to hear. That actually floored me. I'm here because I am the newly re-elected Laney College Senate President, and I'm going to be with you for the next 2 years. It's kind of like my comeback tour, if you will. And most importantly, I really want to emphasize that I did not need to come back. It's not usually typical that Senate presidents will come back and run for another term. But I want to let you know why. And I think that that's because a lot of our Laney College faculty feel particularly hopeful. And that is because our leadership has given us every single indication that there is respect for shared governance in this district. And so I just wanted to highlight that for you all. And now I think that we're in a pivotal time. We all have to be part of the solutions moving forward. The onus isn't on one leader or one campus or one group to make a change. It's on all of us. Are we continuing to make the mistakes of the past, or are we ready to move forward? Are we going to protect our students, to empower them to keep going in a difficult world? I think that we have the capability to do that, and we have the structure to do that here with shared governance, unlike private industry. We need voices and we need solutions. I think that it's a time for selflessness in particular. And through that, we can realize our collective power. So I'm excited to get to work. Thank you, everyone.
That is all the public comment we have.
Thank you, everyone. So now we'll have the College of Alameda presentation to the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Board President. Well, first of all, we're so pleased to be on the island. Thank you so much to the College of Alameda for this really incredible opportunity for us to do our campus visit and study session tonight. Before we begin with the College of Alameda presentation, I want to take a moment to just reflect on the fact that us coming to these colleges and doing these remote meetings, as President Goldstein said, are a lot of work. And so again, want to recognize, first of all, the Peralta TV team and everybody who's worked behind the scenes on those areas and setups. Certainly our board clerk, but let's give it up for our College of Alameda team. First of all, want to say thank you to Nikki Herrera, Chung Wai Chum, Chantel Nathaniel, Selwyn Montgomery, the IT team, Bala Sumputraj, Sourav Pudasegni, and Sean Foster, our custodial team, which includes Karan Dixon and many of our other custodial folks, and the grounds team, David Haynes, for all of his support. I also want to recognize our vice presidents, Dr. Nicole Porter and Dr. Mildred Lewis, for their support for this visit, and certainly want to thank again the esteemed college president. I'm going to turn it over to in 1 second. We also had the joy of an incredible campus tour before the board sat down tonight with you all. And so I want to thank, some of them will be presenting tonight, but certainly want to thank our team from Roblin Construction, Spencer Zach and Anthony Almano, who gave us a tour of the new transportation center, Drew Burgess, Professor Burgess, for the look at the gallery, and then also Jeremy Simmons for the basic needs tour that we were able to do, and Professor Derek Piazza from the Apparel Design and Merchandising Program. Thank you on behalf of myself and the Board of Trustees for such a warm welcome and an awesome opportunity to really get to see the gem that is here, right here on the island. And so now I will turn over to the illustrious president, President Melanie Dixon. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Thank you and welcome. Welcome. Good evening, President Quinlan, members of the board, Chancellor Gilkerson, our esteemed faculty, classified professionals, community, and beloved students. We are so happy to have you here tonight. Really enjoyed the tour and really excited to bring forward the work of our faculty and our classified professionals this evening. So we hope that you had opportunity today, with it being Earth Day, to celebrate. One of our faculty members put on a session for celebrating Asia Pacific Islander Desi American Heritage Month, but also identifying the sustainability of food and Apita. So I really, really appreciate that work that she did, and I hope you all had the opportunity to celebrate. I want to take a moment just to reiterate the thanks to the COA team that made this evening possible. A lot of time and effort went into this, specifically with our presenters. So really excited about that work that we get to highlight. And it's only some of the amazing things that COA has to offer. I want to also talk about the recognition on behalf of our college as it relates to the showcase in general. I think you've heard this from Goldstein around the importance of going around to the colleges and validating or affirming the work that's happening. And certainly in our tour today, we got to stand in one of the facilities that you all have made possible for us, which is our new transportation center. So thank you so much. This evening, you all will learn about COA's very own apparel design and merchandising programs, better known to us as ADAM. And in this particular program, we have phenomenal leaders in our faculty ranks, one of which tonight will be presenting to you, and that is Professor Derek Piazza. But I'd be remiss for not acknowledging another one of his colleagues, which is OJ Roundtree, who has been a part of this program and a highly revered faculty member at COA. After learning more about this influential program, you will receive a presentation from Jeremy Simmons, who serves as COA's Basic Needs Program Coordinator. And he serves in this capacity under Director Rodriguez. And this support service provides critical needs to students now more than ever. These services provided in our basic needs areas ensures that all of our students are able to have the ability to have a successful academic journey at COA. I want to thank you all again for joining us this evening and want to take the opportunity to introduce you to Professor Piazza, who will share with you our apparel design and merchandising program. Please join me in welcoming him up to the podium. Good evening.
Which one is forward? That's our forward.
There it is.
It was,
Mhm.
okay, very good. Thank you so much for this opportunity to show off our amazing fashion design program and the work of our amazing fashion students. As I was introduced, my name is Derek Piazza, and I am the department chair in the apparel design and merchandising program here at the College of Alameda. And you can see with the heart jumping over, we love our fashion program very much, and we love our fashion students as well. I want to start it off by saying a quote from Howard Thurman, African-American philosopher and author. He says, "Do not ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go and do that." Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. And this is the quote that we bring to our students who come to life in our program creatively, and we get to see them grow in our 2-year program. Oops, this one was set in there here. That's fine. We have let me give you a rundown of what the program actually is. The ADAM program offers fundamental and advanced training in fashion design from collection development through production and including merchandising at retail. Our affordable, industry-driven curriculum meets current trends and technology in an ever-expanding field. And we are expanding, in this case, in dual enrollment. We are in Oakland School for the Arts, we are in Oakland Tech, and we also have affiliations with Oakland High and Skyline as well. So we're teaching the next generation of fashion designers right here in Bay Area high schools. We can take a look at some of the work here. This is of our upcoming graduating student, Jonathan Salek, and taking the skills that he learned to actually create garments of his own for his own collection. These are designs from Shiva Sultani, where she's created from inspiration all the way through garments that are ready for showing and in her portfolio as well. And what we love to tell people is that when students join our program, they do not have to have any prior experience at all. We teach them everything they know to be successful. And again, Jonathan Salek, and these are some of his work here. We do have student collaborations with our sister college, Laney College. We work with their cosmetology and their photography department to help actually actualize and bring to life all the inspiration and ideas for our students. Another example of work by Shiva Sultani. And the training that we talked about, that I mentioned, starts with generating an idea. What is what is she inspired by? And then taking that inspiration, bringing it into fruition, making patterns through it, through the process of pattern making, which is a two-dimensional way of working. It's working with two-dimensional paper patterns to a three-dimensional dress form or garment. And they also learned the skill of pattern draping, which is working the other way. It's working from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions. So they're actually building, shaping, sculpting, and molding their garments right on a dress form. And we love that we're able to give them that skill, which is transferable to all of the skills that they are going to be needing when they move into the fashion industry and ready for the workforce. We have a portfolio development class, and by the time the students get to this point, their garments, their collections are ready for their portfolio, and this is part of Shiva Sultani's portfolio. And students love to have their own photo shoots, in addition to, as I said, working in conjunction with Laney College, but they're able to have their own and get their portfolios in order. And what we love about what we teach our students is that they're actually able to, while they're in school, take what they've learned and start making clothing from it. They work in conjunction with the Fab Lab, and they begin to make their product, sell their product to local brick and mortar stores, as well as online shops as well. Our catchphrase is, "Where will Adam take you? Where will you go? What will you do with what you've learned in the apparel design and merchandising program?" And people can take it in so many different ways and directions, meaning they can go in the more creative way direction. They can have it more technical direction as well. We have Halima Lekki as fashion and beauty vlogger. We have Kaleo Lani Diego, who is graduated in 2019, and he started his own brand, and he has pop-up shops all over San Francisco and all over the East Bay, and he has actually hired some of our students to assist him in his creative endeavors for his company, Nabuha. And what we love about our graduates is that they find that they want to give back to our program, and that allows them to come back and become ADAM Advisory Board members. Jessica Ricchetti being another one of them, graduating in 2006, Advisory Board member. She is the Senior Design Manager at Lululemon, taking a more creative route. You'll see here all of the varieties of jobs that people have, directions they've gone into. Molly Nicola, who's Associate Designer at Eddie Bauer, another ADAM Advisory Board member. What we love about our advisory board members is not only do they advise us on best practices in fashion design, but they come back and they actually are able to speak to our students. And some of them come back on site, which is what most of our classes are, but we also have 4 online classes, and some of them are in other parts of the world. So they actually zoom in and give our students the best practices of what's happening in their job and in their realm of the fashion industry. Here we've got U.S. Navy veteran Ben Bell, 2016 ADAM graduate. He's now head of digital innovation and development at Levi's. And it was his work with our program, as well as the Fab Lab, that allowed him to use the laser etching machine, which most places don't have. He was able to amp up his portfolio, and that's what got him noticed at Levi Strauss. And he's been there ever since, working his way up. And it's very kind of him to give quotes like enrolling and completing the Adam program is the single best investment I made for myself, he says, and my career. I am now head of my department. And he comes and speaks as well. More students and where they've gone more recently, 2020 Adam graduate Lily Endo is sample coordinator at Athleta. We took a field trip to the design center and Lily ended up making a contact there while she was still in school and landed a job at the San Francisco Design Center based on our field trip. It was very exciting, and that does happen. Verly Carmack, 2023 Adam graduate, who was our valedictorian a couple years ago. Wonderful. So proud of Verly. And Verly was generous enough to give us a quote, which was, Adam instructors wanted us to be successful. I felt guided to do my best. I was able to learn the magic of fashion design in an instructive way. Jeremiah Cobbs, who was showing off his sportswear and motor gear. He showed that off when he graduated in Paris. This was before lockdown, and his company is doing so well, Javon Trois. He was able to create his logo while he was in our portfolio development class, which is partly about creating your brand. We have Shema Buja, who right here in Alameda is the quality expediter at Janine's Bridal. And our program in one form or another has been around since about 1965. One of our first graduates was Claire Schaefer. Claire Schaefer is a renowned haute couture expert, author, and lecturer in Palm Springs, California. And I had the privilege of working with her and learning under her tutelage. It was absolutely wonderful. And she's so generous to our program. Few more of the graduates, Harrison Lamont, visual merchandiser at Banana Republic. Again, you can see where students take this in a creative direction, some go into a more technical direction, and some end up in retail as well. Mona Dongre, who is a freelance cosplay designer. She worked really hard in the program, as all of our students do. And this is what she gained from it. She says the Adam program enhanced my creative life as a cosplay designer. I was able to expand my business in more sustainable ways. And we do have wonderful student collaborations that have been going on for nearly 10 years, if not more, with our very own Fab Lab. Students go over there. There's probably there right now where they're able to use the 3D printer to create buttons and accessories for their collections, even hangers. They use the very unique dye sublimation, also known as a dye sub machine, to design original printed fabric in my class and my colleague OJ Roundtree's classes, and then go over and actually print it out, and including laser etched denim. You remember US Navy veteran Ben Bell actually used their laser, which most places, colleges do not have, and really be trained on it and use it in a creative way. And that was one of the reasons that Levi Strauss, he caught Levi Strauss's eye. And this is an example, Hannah Gilson, she's a 2025 upcoming graduate. She won second place in our fashion show, and she actually printed all of these in the Fab Lab. And she began, in her first year in the program, she began selling all of her garments online and started her own small business. And we have connections with Levi Strauss. I worked for Levi Strauss in part of my my career for 2 years. So I have many connections there still, and they are so generous that they give us their sustainability donations from their dead stock, which is just inventory that has not been sold and remains in storage, often becoming obsolete or outdated. And what you can see here from the denim that was donated, we have Shiva Sultani, who was our first place winner, using that denim for her collection as well. So it helps students in that way. And we have, this may be the last slide here, but I'm proud to announce that beginning spring 2026, the entire ADAM program will be CSU transfer level, so that transferring ADAM graduates will spend less time and money obtaining their BA degree. And usually they go to San Francisco State. So we're so excited about that. And I believe that's the last slide there. I thank you for your time, everyone. And again, welcome to the College of Alameda trustees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love seeing where students end up after they take programs at COA. So pretty impressive where our students arrive and the different journeys. I'd like to welcome now Jeremy Simmons, who is overseeing our basic needs services.
Thank you so much for having me today. Give this little talk about basic needs here at COA. This is where I spend most of my waking hours in this space, so it's nice to see it filled with all you guys here. There we are. So basic needs here at COA, I like to say it's a holistic student-centered approach towards helping the students kind of meet the basics so that they can focus on their education. I like to say that our basic needs is built on 3 pillar programs, that being the Market, Tasty Tuesday, and our one-stop shop, which is our pantry space. When available, we also do other types of support. We do emergency food grants, emergency aid, Wi-Fi hotspots, and we've developed some other new types of grants to help students kind of fill the gaps where things like just food don't do. It's not advancing for me. Wait, there it goes. All right, so one of our main pillar programs is the Market. What the Market is a bi-monthly outdoor market. I've turned it in, or tried to turn it into, along with help from so many other people, into like a farmer's market. So we have usually 2 to 3 types of bulk produce that we can give out to students, along with some grocery basics, rice and beans, pasta sauce, milk, those sorts of things. What we do, it's evolved into this, we get all of this from the local Alameda County Community Food Bank for free. And we take anything that's extra and left over and put it into our pantry. So we have stock in our pantry for the next couple of weeks until we have another distribution. Some of the numbers I'm going to cite in this presentation are as of the end of March. So it's not quite the full academic year, but it will be the academic year since fall 2024 to the end of March. So since then, we have serviced through our market, just our outdoor bi-monthly market, over 1,200 students. That's not unique students, that's just 1,200 people that have come through the market. We actually just had it today right outside back of this building. This is a little bit of what it looks like. Our bulk produce bins, our tables with various dry goods, canned goods. I think that was a cold day. As an offshoot of the market, we also, during the holidays, have a free chicken dinner program. It's essentially frozen chickens that we pass out to students if and when available. We also have side dishes for the holidays, but we do this during the holidays once in November, once in December. We've been doing it for 2 to 3 years now, I think. This year alone, we distributed in 2 distributions, 2 days, over 1,500 pounds of frozen chickens. I was really happy that this year the food bank had some other frozen chicken options. So a quarter of those chickens were actually halal chickens. So we set those aside for our Muslim students that were looking for something more specific to their diet. We also coordinated with staff at the aviation maintenance facility to conduct both signups and distribution of chickens at that campus too, because a lot of times those students don't get all the way over here to our campus. So one of our another pillar program is Tasty Tuesday, which is a free lunch program for students. We've been doing this for the last 2 years, I believe. So every Tuesday, usually in this space, we give out about 200 lunches to students. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. We also use Tasty Tuesday as a platform for other constituents, either outside the campus sometimes, but also mostly inside, to either do presentations or do tablings to get out information about their programs. I have a list here of all the different partners we've had. Today we had ASCOA, the student government, doing some outreach for their club drive. And then we also had someone here from the Alameda County Community Food Bank doing CalFresh outreach. So far since fall 2024, this academic year, we've given out over 5,000 lunches. It's actually quite a bit more because I stopped in March. One of the things I'm really proud about this program is we use local small businesses. And by local, I mean really local. 3 of the usual vendors are within walking distance of the campus. Almost all of them they all are incredibly thankful for the support that we're giving them and we're giving back to the community. There's all of the other ones that we use for this. I have about a rotating group of 7 different food vendors. The other ones aren't more than like a mile away in Oakland or downtown Oakland. So they're all very nearby. So we're giving back to the community as well. So as a little ancillary program to Tasty Tuesdays, during finals, I started this thing called Snacks for Finals. Basically, we just have a table and a little fridge filled with snacks that students can come by during finals week and pick up snacks when and if they need it. It's basically just grab and go. You can kind of pick up anytime during the day. They don't have to do any sort of check-in process or anything like that. I just want them to know it's here for them to support them during finals. We have, it's mostly junk food, but it's, chips, cookies, and sodas, that sort of stuff. But that's what they want during finals, right? Got to get through. We've done this the last 2 semesters. We started last spring. We did it last fall, and I'm going to be doing it again this spring as well. So our third pillar program is our one-stop shop. And our one-stop shop is our permanent indoor pantry space. And I say permanent indoor because for so long we were just doing kind of outdoor giveaways and distributions and pop-ups. But now we have this permanent indoor space. It's back in the back corner of this building. It's open every day except Tuesday because we're busy with Tasty Tuesdays. So it's open every day from 10 to 4. Students can visit once a week. Everything in there is free for students. We have a variety of food items that are left over from our market distributions, including fresh produce. We keep some fresh produce on hand for them. We have 3 to 4 clothing racks of clothes, shoes, hats. We also have a kind of a wall of personal care items that they can pick from as well. And like I said, they can visit once a week and shop through what we have. Let's see. We had our so we did kind of a soft launch in the late summer and early fall to kind of just see how things were working. And then we had our grand opening about midway through last semester on October 2nd. And yeah, I mean, I was really happy. It was a kind of a labor of love to get the space up and going and functional. And so in the first 2.5 months of being operational, so it was like a half a semester or so, we had almost 396 visitors to the one-stop shop. 344 of them were shopping for food, 321 for personal care items, 79 for clothing. In the fall, we were averaging approximately 9.7 visits a day. Now, I'm seeing that trending up. We've already seen in the first 2 months of this semester, it's up to 300, almost 350. This is 330. And our visits per day are up to 11.9. We've had, like yesterday, we had 23 people come through, which is a pretty busy day in that space. Let's see. So part of our one-stop shop is the boutique. At one point, we didn't know if the boutique was going to exist in and of itself or if it was going to be under this umbrella. But as a side initiative of the boutique this year, we had our coat drive, our first coat drive here on the campus. We collaborated with the Office of VPSS to get out these bins all around campus. During the holidays, we distribute them, right before the end of the semester. We ended up gathering 75 warm coats and 45 kind of light coats and hoodies. The real underlying sort of message and what we wanted to do was to make sure families could get warm coats, or so students could get warm coats for their families as well. So children, we also had a wide variety of children's coats. We ended up giving out 32 warm coats to students and 32, nice even numbers, to their children. So that's 64 people that had coats for the winter seasons. And that was just our first attempt, so I think next time it's going to be even bigger. So some of the other services that we have here that are extremely important, one of the most is this emergency food grant. Essentially what that is $300 in Safeway gift cards. Students can apply for that and they're eligible to receive that once in their time as a student. It's very popular, but also very needed. So far this semester, or I'm sorry, since fall 2024, we've given out, I can't read it anymore, almost $30,000. And we've actually given out more because I've been giving them out the last few weeks a lot. And we've helped almost 100 students. We also have an emergency aid grant that can go anywhere from $100 up to $500. We do that with a partner agency that helps fund it. That's specifically for students that have encountered an unforeseen circumstance that they need help to kind of get past. We do Wi-Fi hotspots as well. We have given almost 92, but almost 100 Wi-Fi hotspots since the fall. Again, it's a service that's for students that are in online classes. It really is a basic need. They need to have a stable Wi-Fi connection. I just put this in here because this was on my presentation when I made it last year, and this was some of our future plans. And you can see what I have here is we had a plan to release some new grants, which we did last month, finally. Obviously, we built out our permanent indoor pantry. If you look close, you can see it was kind of a little bare bones back then. And then we ordered some new furniture for this space to make it a little bit more comfortable and kind of invite people to be and stay here longer in the space. All of those I see as, green check marks. They're successes for me because this time last year, none of this existed, but it does now. These are some of our future plans for basic needs here at COA, and one of them is happening next week, and that's a flea market. Our racks right now in our boutique are overflowing thanks to local support, but also like local community support, but also, students, staff, faculty, everyone kind of drops off clothes for us that we could use in our boutique. But we have too much right now. So in this space next week, during our lunch, we're going to be having a big flea market out here where students can come through and just pour through everything. And yeah, we're hoping to get some new grants. I'm working as hard as I can on trying to get some sort of solution to some housing funding, whether it be like an emergency voucher to stay in a hotel or rental and deposit assistance. It's an ongoing problem. It's probably one of the biggest problems, but it's a really hard one to solve. But I'm finally starting to make some headway with there. We also hope to possibly expand the pantry because I can already tell we could use more space. And then I'd really like to have evening hours for our basic needs center as well. So anytime when we have evening supervision here with our administrators, I'd like to figure out a way for us to keep the space open because we do have night classes and plenty of those students don't really get to be here during the normal day. I think that's my last slide.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate Jeremy's efforts. And again, this is activity basic needs really important for our district and some of the work that our chancellor has done at the state level. So really appreciate that work as well. And I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you for that incredible presentation. And another round of applause for the College of Alameda Showcase. Thank you so much. So Board President, I'll turn it back to you if there's any questions.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for that presentation. Really excited to hear about Adam. On the basic needs, Jeremy, I had a question. Where'd you go? There was one slide that talked about CalFresh outreach. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about that. And do we make referrals for other types of public benefits or partners who might help with that?
Absolutely. We try to do as much as possible as far as outside referrals. I start inside because I can get more immediate help to them, within what we have. But if not, then we will refer them to outside agencies. Hopefully as local as possible because the kind of farther out you expand into the county, it gets harder and harder for them to access services. As far as CalFresh goes, that is not one of my areas of expertise. I will try my best to get a student started in that process, but I know we have community partners like our food bank who does CalFresh enrollment. So I will have them here to get out that information, follow up with students. And then as we go, if those students need any further assistance, I will work with them individually if needed. But like I said, it's not my specialty. Or I will refer them to the food bank where they do have specialists to do that.
Thanks for the presentation. Both the ADAM program and the basic needs. I want to ask specifically about the basic needs. And Chancellor, I know this is an area where you have a lot of expertise. I'm wondering at College of Alameda and then in the rest of Peralta, how do we understand this problem at a more universal level? Like it's good to get the granular here's one concrete thing that we're doing. When we look at the overall student population, what do we understand about basic needs and how that's impacting their ability to be successful as students?
It's a really great question. Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen. So I'm actually excited because we actually have an opportunity to see this data up front very soon here. So we just launched the 2025 survey, Real College California, Real Lived Experiences of College Students. And I'm proud to say that the 4 colleges in this district, including College of Alameda, participated in robust outreach to students to get student voices, to participate in the statewide survey. That survey closed a week and a half ago. And so we are beginning statewide data analysis. But what is exciting is that here on our campus, we have, in our district, we have access to the aggregate data, looking at 32 indices across basic needs and securities, looking at these things. We know statewide in the 2023 survey, 2 out of every 3 community college students said they had a basic needs insecurity, either housing, homelessness, or food insecurity. So we're updating that data, and we had much greater participation from the students in the Peralta Community College District. So hope to have a data presentation to the board very soon to understand some of those unique questions and be able to, again, work with our incredible team of basic needs coordinators, our college leadership teams, to be able to design and understand how we can actually do what Jeremy talked about, which is what are the right partnerships? How do we bring CalFresh applications directly to this campus when we have it on other campuses where they're doing the direct outreach and signups at their campuses, right? Using best practices across the range. So we hope to have very clear, updated information to present to the board here at the beginning of the next academic year.
Thank you. There are 2 particular areas that I personally am interested in, and one has to do with housing needs. The second thing then is when we look at the basic needs that students have, how do we understand specifically how that impacts their ability to be successful? And in particular, I'm thinking, how does that impact their investment in study?
Yes.
So as you do that work, I'm looking forward to hearing those particular areas.
Yeah, we're excited for the nuanced data. So the statewide data did show that when students had less of a basic needs insecurity, there was greater levels, right, of A's and B's, passing grades, and success in terms of course outcomes. But what we saw is that there was a direct correlation that working didn't actually mean that students' basic needs insecurities went down, that actually the more hours they worked didn't mean that they were any less insecure. So we live in this part of the state, a very high cost of living, area. So, looking at solutions for housing that can serve a greater number of population and work with public agencies and other people in our community, and looking at that correlation. So those are questions that are in the basic needs survey that just was completed. And so we'll have some better answers, at least to sort of see, and then we can decide to follow up with focus groups or other things to better understand how we can support our students.
That's super helpful. And the real specific area that I'm always interested in is the actual number of hours that students are putting in to learning, and to try to understand those 2 correlations. So thanks.
Chancellor, in our earlier discussions, you were talking about the state is in the current budget is cutting the basic need allocations to the colleges across the state. Can you suggest ways that both as a board and as a community, we can advocate for more resources and to make sure that they understand the depth of this problem, and how, as a board and a community, we can do to advocate for our students?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Board President Quinlan. So first of all, I want to just clarify the statement I made. And one is that when we have partners, right? So over the last number of years, the colleges have worked very hard. Jeremy gave a perfect example of here is where we didn't actually have a food pantry before, and now we have a pantry, right? That needs to be continually stocked and do these things. We work with partner agencies. My thank goodness for the Alameda County Food Bank and the work that they do. But across the state, Cal Food and the state budget has been cut. That means they have less money to support community clinics and the regular food outreach that they do on a day-to-day basis. So we're supporting advocacy that isn't necessarily directly community college budget, but has a huge impact on the fact of what we're able to leverage through the partnership. And so I wanted to just clarify that one point. So oftentimes while we're, calling on the trustees and our community to advocate, we have to look with a little wider aperture at the fact that there are many places in the community that intersect what we do. So social services and those places, and everything in our most recent 2023 report was the fact that we aren't doing enough to braid resources and these things. We're very siloed in the way that we're doing. So we're looking and calling on policymakers, boards of trustees, and other things to vocalize the needs of our students. That's why we do the survey. So my goal really is for you all is that as soon as we're done with our survey data and we have the statewide data, that the trustees that we're working together with, one, to educate the community about those things, reaching out for ways that we can actually partner and not have duplicative, services where maybe social services could come here on the campuses and do things. So there's a lot of wide ranges where the trustees can actually make connections and then advocate both in Sacramento and locally to get more resources and coordinated support for our students. Prop 98 is a small budget. We're being asked more and more as community colleges to do lots and lots of things. The work around basic needs and securities and the statewide development of that in the budget, and we don't know what budgets will be before, has been pretty immense since 2018, right? If you blink your eye and look back, we weren't doing this work before. This is a huge portfolio of what we're doing. And you heard our basic needs coordinator say last year, right? We have little state funding to do this. And I'm grateful. So please, if anybody's gonna put this online, hear me. I'm really, really grateful, right, to the legislature and folks for supporting our efforts, but it's not necessarily enough, right? Where are the supplies and the foods? When we look at things like the 50% law and all of these pieces, these are things that we're grappling with, where we can purchase the things that help support our students. How do we have categorical funds and those pieces? So we'll certainly work on a full advocacy plan for the Board of Trustees when we get more data.
On that point, I think you should use us. I would be very happy to connect you with community organizations that do the types of referrals around public benefits. So the Unity Council comes to mind. I think they would be a great resource and would probably be happy to come in and be able to help connect students to those types of resources.
Thank you. Well, you good? All right. Well, thank you so much to the College of Alameda team. Thank you, President Dixon. Thank you, Professor Piazza. And thank you, our basic needs coordinator, Jeremy Simmons. So item 1.7 is our annual Student Success and Equity Presentation. Board of Trustees, I'm so pleased to have tonight our institutional research team presenting quantitative and qualitative data research in our annual Student Success and Equity presentation that's aligned directly with your goals. And so I want to, first of all, just welcome up and thank Dr. Tina Vasconcelos, Dr. Francisco Herrera, Dr. Helen Koo, Dr. Young Hu, and Stephen Chan, who are going to do the presentation tonight. And let's give a round of applause. I mean, we've got a team of people here tonight giving this outstanding presentation. So turn it over to you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for that introduction, Chancellor. Thank you, Board of Trustees, Chancellor, Presidents, and community members for this opportunity for the District Institutional Research Office today to present to you some information on student equity and success metrics. Today, the team and I will be sharing some quantitative data on student enrollment, swirling fill rate, and student success. And we'll also be sharing some qualitative data, which is in the form of some student feedback that we got around some research with Oakland Unified School District students who were both interested in coming to Peralta and also current Peralta students who came from Oakland Unified School District. So today I want to just start off with giving you a little historical background on our enrollment. And so here is just some sort of a longitudinal perspective of our enrollment from both pre-pandemic to post-pandemic and where we currently stand. And you can see on this a chart behind me, the trajectory of our FTS. And I'm happy to report that, especially over the past 3-4 years, we're seeing an increase in our FTS. Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor. District-wide, that's almost an 11% increase. And one of the things I'm happy to announce as well is the State Chancellor's Office has introduced a new standardized accounting method, which is a new FTS formula for credit courses. And with that new FTS formula, we're already seeing in our preliminary analysis that's going to increase our FTS. We're already showing that that's going to be around a 4% increase. So we're hoping to continue seeing that trend as we move forward. And now as we look at the FTS enrollment across at each of the 4 colleges, we're also seeing a similar increase, which I'm happy to show that the most rapid increase and growth is right here at the College of Alameda. So, and also even more good news, like I said, we're seeing that increase in FTS enrollment at all 4 colleges. So again, I think we're on a good track. I know we've done a lot of new programs, and again, I'm really excited to kind of see that continue as we're moving forward. And now to talk into more about the demographics of what we're seeing, I'll pass that on to my colleague, Stephen Chan.
Thank you, Dr. Herrera. So the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about demographics. And this is looking at the enrollment headcount by age groups. As you can see, the largest student group is age 19 to 24. And also the enrollment has increased for the other age group from 25 to 64. And we also have a small group, those under 16, those are special admit students from high school and middle school. And the next slides, we're going to look at some of the headcounts for our demographics by gender. Female students are constantly higher than male students. And also over the last 3 years, we see slightly increases on did not disclose and non-binary genders. And the reason is the state in their college application has now more options to represent their genders. So we include those data in this slide. So the next slide we look at is the headcount by race and ethnicity. The biggest group is the Latinx and Asian students are the top 2 groups. And interesting enough, our white student and also 2 or more races are also in a little upward trends if we look at the numbers. The next slide, we're going to look at the field rate and see how our classes across the district are being filled. And the definition of the field rate is we look at the classes, how many seats available and how many seats are filled. For example, if we have a class for 50 students and we fill 40, so the fill rate is about 80%. So as you can see, the last 3 years, we are definitely increasing from 22-23 at about 67 to 68% to 24-25 now at 72 and 71%. Just to give you a few highlights for our campuses, during academic year 24-25, Berkeley has the highest fill rate for in-person classes at 58.9%. Alameda has the highest fill rate for online classes at 76.3%. And Laney has the highest rate for hybrid classes at 58.6%. So Dr. Koo will talk about swirl rate and also success rate.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, so now we know how classes are filling up at Peralta. Let's take a look at the types of courses that are offered at Peralta Colleges in terms of course modality. So over time, within these 3 academic years, we see a 12% decrease in the number of online courses And on the other side, an 11% increase in the number of in-person courses. So we see colleges are making this effort to offer more in-person courses. Now, $100 million question could be, how are students performing in in-person courses versus online courses? Let's take a deeper dive. First, one key performance indicator we look at is students' course success rate. That is students' overall percent of courses they complete with a passing grade. And overall at Peralta, we see that the course completion rate is 70%. Now, if we look at online courses, it's 69%. And y'all may want to guess what it is for in-person. If it's higher or lower than online, it is higher. 75% courses that are in person are completed. So there's a 6% difference right here. And that percentage gap, we wonder if that's the case if we look at within student gender groups, within students' race and ethnicity groups. So that's the next piece we'll look at. And look, non-binary students are completing in-person classes more so than they are completing online classes by 10%. And for Black African-American students, multiracial students, and white students, it's 9%. Okay, so now that we know that students are doing relatively better in-person classes, and this is actually across all other gender groups and all other racial ethnicity groups. We want to know, as we're also offering more in-person classes, how does enrollment look like within each gender group? So we see here the percentage gap between in-person and online enrollments is highest for female students. There's a 34% difference. So in other words, female students are enrolling in online classes at 67% compared to in-person classes at 33%. And if we look at race and ethnicity, Asians, there's a 38% difference here. So again, students are enrolling in more online courses across the board compared to how many classes they're enrolling in person. Okay, so now that we see this enrollment information, we know that Peralta students are primarily part-time students. So in academic year, this current one, 78% of our student population are part-time students and 22% are full-time. So the next question, going along with what we're talking about for modes of instruction, are part-time students more likely to take in-person courses than full-time students? Well, looking at the data for this academic year, it's actually not too different. So part-time students and full-time students are taking about the same, 35 to 37% of their courses are in person, and 63 to 65% are online classes. Okay, now let's switch gears to swirling. So let me first share, y'all may have heard the word swirl over many discussions. So for this, within these 3 academic years, we see that swirling has increased slightly from 38% to 40%. So I will share that for this swirling rate, this is including students that are taking, let's say Jimmy is taking an Atom class at COA, and then he is also taking another science class at Berkeley City College during the same term. This can also include Amy, who is taking a math class at Berkeley City College during the fall term, and then she could also be taking a class at Laney College during the spring term. So that includes everyone swirling, and it's 40%. Okay, so you may wonder which campus, which college has the most swirls? Laney College coming in first at 5,673 swirls. And then second is College of Alameda at 5,303. And note here, students swirled the most between Laney and College of Alameda. All right, and next up, we have Doctor Who.
Thank you, Helen. Now let's take a look at the student awards and degrees. Here we look at 3 award types: associate degree AAAS, associate degree for transfer, and certificate of achievement. In the past 3 years, we see that in the year 23-24, Peralta conferred the largest number of awards. If we then break it down by the award type, we see that all 3 types are increasing, with the most increased type of certificate of achievement of 28% since academic year 21-22. And here is our top 5 major awards in the past 3 academic years. For associate degree, we have social science, liberal arts. Associate degree for transfer, we have business and psychology, and certificate of achievement, we have transfer studies, electrical technology. And here is the student award by service area in the past 3 years. We find that the DSPS and low-income awards has been increasing, while we still did not achieve the level of the year in 21-22. For foster youth and adult ed, there's an increasing trend. For veterans, a little bit decreasing, but the numbers are relatively small. And here is the breakdown of awards by gender. Consistent with the number of the headcount by gender, female earned the largest proportion of awards. And here's the breakdown by ethnicity. Again, consistent with the headcount by race and ethnicity, Latinx and Asian students are the top 2 award recipients. And we see a rapid increase of 31.2 for Latin students from academic year 22-23 to 23-24. And then Dr. Vasconcelos is going to talk about high school transition to Peralta.
Thank you, everybody. So we've seen quantitative data, which we've talked about for years, right? But we wanted to bring in also qualitative data. So Peralta is part of an Oakland post-secondary workforce collaborative. And within that, we did a year of research. There's a population of students that we looked at. A cohort was 751 students that indicated they were OUSD students that indicated they were interested in attending a Peralta college. Of those, 412 enrolled. So we looked at a year of data. We did participatory research. We trained our youth advisory board to conduct surveys and also do focus groups. They led the focus groups with our youth and also really informed the questions that we used in our surveys. You have a copy of the reports on the dais today, so you can review at a later date. But there's 7 areas that showed up as barriers across the sectors. Some of them were high school preparation, financial challenges, and also personal and family concerns. Difficulty finding resources was a huge issue across all of both the surveys and also the focus groups. Difficulty choosing or selecting majors and career pathways was an issue, and also lack of encouragement. Lack of encouragement really was about prior to enrolling in a college or going to college from family and community. So just to highlight here about this persistent barriers, 31% of the grads did not get any college access support during the summer. So OUSD provides some students unique experiences where they have supports with CBOs during their summer of transition. So in this case, of those that were surveyed or in the focus groups, 31% did not receive that. that really also impacted their ability to then choose their career pathway or their major and successfully navigate the system to apply and also enroll. Another notable sort of point was also the financial situation for our students, or for those that were surveyed and in the focus groups. A lot of our students, as we know, similar to our students here that are enrolled in Peralta across all 4 colleges, work 2 to 3 jobs, have parental and or other family obligations, and also help pay bills within their multiple households. So we took the quantitative data that you've seen over the years, also brought in the qualitative data, and we've engaged in an 8-month-long process since last summer, working across with administrators across the entire district, looking at, okay, what are we seeing here? What are our students telling us with the data, with the quantitative data, with the qualitative analysis that we've looked at, and how can we best positively impact our student experience? So we went through a process of that. We did 8 months of visioning. We're still in the process of rolling that out. And we have 2 recommendations that came out of that process. Some of it was to centralize technology, business workflow, and also personnel to better have positive impact on student experience. And then also to launch a peer navigator program. To just sort of aligned with the basic needs discussion earlier, the peer navigator program, we're partnering with CARA, which is a nonprofit organization in New York, and has had a lot of success with their peer-to-peer theory model of change. And they've worked in the CUNY system really well. They've done a replica program with Tacoma Community College, and then we're going to start a program with us this summer. So that peer program is directly designed to positively impact and onboard students in a whole different way than we've ever done. We're going to do a no wrong door approach. So regardless of what door, or rather what campus door you show up on, you will learn about all the other campuses, all the instruction programs across, what are the workforce sort of implications and programs related to those, what are the student supports, and so forth. The other thing that we're going to look at, which is directly related to basic needs, is really training the navigators on how to have holistic conversations with our students as they're onboarding, asking those difficult questions around a holistic sort of needs. How many hours are you working? Okay, I'm working 30 hours. How many classes are you taking? I'm taking 1 class. Being able to sort of talk about financial aid, having knowledge and skills around that to do the outreach for financial aid, so they can increase their aid potentially, decrease their hours at work, increase a class or 2, and lessen time to completion. So these are the 2 recommendations that we're moving forward right now. And I want to thank you.
Well, thank you for that outstanding, you all did so good presentation. Thank you to the team. Board President, I'll turn over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question. Do we have any idea what the future population of our K-12 graduation is going to be across the district or within OUSD?
Like, is it increasing or declining, or is that, or what?
Right. Do we know?
It's been declining. I haven't looked at the recent data. I don't know if you have the recent data, but I remember in a most recent ed master plan, there was like over many years, we were losing 10,000 students in OUSD, right? So that's with kindergarten on down. So if we're year 13-ish, right, then that's gravely impacting. And we've seen that decline over time. While dual enrollment allows us to have space within the high schools and increase our enrollment and connection with youth that way, the overall population is declining.
The second question I have is, of our dual enrollment population, do we know how many of those students actually end up attending Peralta?
It's low. Do we know the actual? Yeah, it's low. So one of the things that we also really want to work on moving forward is strengthening our pathways. We actually have a California Pathways Consortium grant that we were awarded with OUSD and also Emory Unified to develop pathways for dual enrollment so that there's more students that actually attend the community college and go forward. So that's one thing. There's also think where we do strategic planning. We've been doing this since last spring, where the OUSD team on matriculation to college and also their dual enrollment teams partner with our vice presidents and our deans of enrollment services, of student services, and instruction. And we have 3 work groups that work year-round on sort of improving the outcomes. Like the dual enrollment group, for instance, is focused on increasing retention of dual enrollment students, not just increasing dual enrollment students, right?
Any other questions from the board or?
All right. Okay, thank you. I have 2 questions. One is from I'm gonna go to it, slide number 5. Regarding the breakdown, I think they're gonna bring it up also. Regarding the breakdown of the demographics by age groups. And you said this, not you said, it's clear. The second largest age group is 35 to 40 to 54. So before I ask my question, normally these help us in a way to understand which programs we're going to support or how we're going to support the new style of student or what have you, right? And I'm wondering, and I think because in the last meeting, I believe it was even Matthew Goldstein who mentioned or who stated that that age group, around this age group, we see the jump in that during a recession or the pandemic or things of that nature. So I'm just wondering if this has been consistent, this age group as number 2, or will it actually decline as in 2025, it looks as though it's already starting to decline? I'm just hoping that we're preparing for what could happen instead of maybe signing it up for this age group when maybe they're going to go away, right? I know, yeah.
So I think what you can see from our environmental scan data just in the area is that actually we are really with the decline in K through 12 and those high school graduates, we are looking at an older adult population that we need that have some or no college that we really need to be actually focusing on as institutions to go out. And so there has been more work by the colleges. I'm really grateful for their efforts to reach out to adult and again, I don't like to call it adult learners. This is the language that they're using in the system, but adult learners or what we call sometimes students who come back for more schooling. We're doing a lot more of that. So you can see that happening with non-credit courses that the colleges have worked on, those pathways and other things to do outreach to different community groups and populations to bring in more students. But I see that as a trend when we look at our service area of where we actually have the most opportunity for growth.
Okay, so no matter what, we want to focus on this and hopefully still have the trend stay high, at least for Peralta.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Actually. All right, thank you. And then the second one, just for clarification, very quickly, the swirl slide, which was 16. Just to ask, are you saying that the numbers, is this, for example, Laney College having 5,500 or so, the students swirling outward or swirling towards Laney? Like which direction are we saying?
Going outwards. So as long as they are enrolled in a class at Laney College, if they are then enrolled at College of Alameda or even Merritt College, there's some swirling, that's more than 2 colleges, then they're considered within that Laney College bucket of swirlers.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. I love this stuff. I could listen to this for hours. So I think I have so many questions, but mine's more of a kind of a thought question, and it's not to be necessarily figured out or talked about today, but I think that what was really astounding to me was that we have, and we've talked about this before, a large percentage of our students are part-time. Our success rates for online classes are 69% versus 75% in person. Our fill rates are showing that we are more online than we are in person. But with our part-time students, we're not seeing much of a difference between full-time and part-time students as to online enrollment. And so I think the big question for me is, what does that mean? It's not even a how do we, because I don't know how we are going to, but what does that actually tell us? Because it seems like by the very nature of this moment in time, our students are onlining, even if their success rates are not quite, I mean, it's only a 6% difference, as you were saying, but even though their success rates are not there. And so I'm just trying to figure out, what does that mean for our colleges? What does that mean for our enrollment? What does that mean for the state of society? What does that mean for everything?
So I'm happy to start to address it, but it's really the question that we're asking right now, to be honest. So I think Trustee Nabila, you asked the $1 million question, which is like, how do we kind of figure that out? And so what we're doing right now is sort of deep analysis each of the colleges of the programs of study. That's why you see our college presidents just recently presented at the Planning and Budget Committee, looking at their budgets, but also looking at programs that have really great success rates and things, and some that have opportunities to grow. But how are we actually looking at the inventory of classes, how we're scheduling them, how a student can get a pathway and be able to really define that out? And then how do we actually talk about that to students? So we can't reach out to oftentimes right now what we're doing, and I love us, right, is like, we have all these programs, but it's like, what can we guarantee a person who's working, raising a family, doing all these things, and guaranteeing schedules to them, and being able to like really actually develop a schedule and a program that works for them, that will get to them to completion in a particular amount of time. So we're pulling all of this kind of data. That's why we have the new really reconstituted Student Success and Enrollment Management Committee that has begun this semester, actually asking like hairy questions about how can we do this. A recent resolution came to the Planning and Budget Committee that asked for a convening of division deans across the district to begin to ask, where are there high impact programs that we need to be adding things. So we really are taking a different lens of looking at these data in a different way to really figure out how we schedule appropriately for the programs. And then also understanding that we take a stand about what kind of way do we know students learn best. It is often, from working with instructional faculty and working with support programs to know, like, we believe that this type of coursework really requires some level of X or Y. You can do this online, or this is the way it is. And so we're always improving our online education and the ways in which we engage with students. So I think that is the $1 million question. I don't have the answer for you today, but I think those are the things that we're wrestling with as a district. And I think we're actually making some really good progress and moving forward on some things.
I think in addition to the scheduling, the biggest thing is, if we know that the success rate is lower, we know the penchant of the students is to enroll in online. So how do we bridge that, right? And so while we also obviously are doing the scheduling piece and looking at those pieces, I think it's really important to look at what are the supports. Are we actually achieving parity, right? From an accreditation standpoint, even with online support versus in-person support, and or how could we, what does that look like? How could we vision that? Right, I think is actually potentially an exciting road to go down, to sort of see how we can actually sort of, meet different group. We know different groups are succeeding at different rates. And so what does a programming look like, and how can we do that across the district, not just even necessarily the campus, if it's online, especially, to best support the students.
And I'd like to make one other point. So oftentimes we'll have people come and say, we need to do that, we need to do more, we need to do more, right? We need to offer more, we need to do these things. And I don't disagree. And oftentimes we're saying, why do we need to be out in the community more doing things? We have students right here. When only 22% of our population is taking classes full time, it costs us way more to outreach in the community, way more person power, more human capital to bridge them in and get them in. But our ability to actually look at the students we're serving and saying, how can we actually change the way we schedule or the way we offer, so that you can actually maybe take one more, that you can actually maybe complete more on time if that's your, declared goal. And so really thoughtful work around that is also where we have the real opportunity, like we saw with the change in just even the way that we calculate courses with the 4% bump that we're seeing that we're going to get this year. There's a lot of opportunity to do it with the students that we have right now to really expand our enrollment.
We have any more questions?
I'm kind of like Cindy. I could listen to this for a long time and really not lose interest. I'm really appreciative of the skill and the curiosity that the team has brought to this work. We're dealing with problems that are not obvious and not easy. And I'm really glad that we paired this presentation with the basic skills presentation, because I think they're really tied together in some critical ways. In particular, looking at the data on remote learning, my guess is there's a really strong correlation between people's available time and then their perception of what their priorities are and where they're going to spend their time and what they need to invest in, what they think of as their education. Which leads me to another thing that's just, it's not up here, but I think it's sort of background for a lot of us just thinking, is the development of artificial intelligence and access to information, which is often good, but not, obviously not nearly perfect. But I think it's really changed the way that as an institution of higher learning that we need to be thinking about what our mission is. And so it strikes me that because, hard information is so much easier to get to with ChatGPT or any number of other tools, part of what we need to be thinking about is, well, what is our mission? And I was talking to Trustee Withrow right before the tour, and we were talking about the importance of student-to-student interaction. Just like, what do students learn from each other? What are the human skills? What are the soft skills? It seems to me that this is a critical thing that we're not necessarily explicitly addressing in our curriculum, in our mission statements and so forth. As access to information becomes so much easier, well, students aren't going to come to us to figure out how to do quadratic formula or whatever it is. They're just going to plug in. And so I think we need to be thinking, how do we help students understand and the broader community understand those important soft skills, those human-to-human skills. And then as we're designing our courses, instead of maybe being so information heavy, maybe we're now putting more emphasis on the context of the learning, how we use information, how we are with each other with that information, what that information means for the broader society. And I'm just thinking, like, as we look at the national crisis that we are facing politically, it's really clear that there are some basic civic skills that we're not doing very well with as a society. And that seems, I think that's a critical part of our mission. So, Matt Goldstein, maybe you're still here, and Laney, maybe you're still here. But I think this is a critical 10+1 conversation that needs to be happening around curriculum. I'll just say two other things that struck me. One is, I wonder if we had housing and we had 1,000 students living on campus, what would that do in terms of our enrollment? And how would students be thinking then about remote learning versus in-person learning? And my guess is that if we could fill that gap, we'd not only meet a basic need that would make it easier for students to be investing in their learning, but we'd also have the opportunity to develop more of those soft skills. The last thing that I want to just raise, that you raised in the data, but then I never hear much presentation. Chancellor, you referred me to the president of Las Positas on this question. We've got this massive gender gap that we all know about, but I don't hear us really addressing. So what are we missing here with young men? It's baffling And I think that's one of these sort of hairy, audacious issues that we really need to be putting our heads around. But we're losing a generation of men, and that's tragic. That's really tragic, but it's also, it strikes me as this really exciting opportunity. Because if we could solve that, if we could figure out like what's going on with guys that they don't want to be in higher education.
Or is it that they don't want to be? So I think what is great about what Dr. Vasconcelos said and the work that came out of the OUSD joint study is the fact that, right, lack of information and lack of sort of somebody to say, like, this is what you can do or need, or making it, facilitating the learning and facilitating that open door. So the no wrong door thing is really why we're taking a new perspective on how we're going to actually think about our students and think about the way that we actually think about the four colleges in a very, very different way than we radically have before, which is really you are part of all of the colleges, right? And that there's this opportunity and that the people and peers are equipped with being able to answer to a peer in a much different way than maybe is seen by a counselor or somebody else who feels like they might have limited or less connection. So we're really excited about the fact that institutionally we've been doing some real thinking and that these teams have come together to say, how can we wrestle with this? And what we'll do is we'll begin to implement and we're going to assess and we're going to ask the questions I think that you've, raised here. And certainly your conversation about what's happening both, here in the United States and actually worldwide. So, right, the World Health Organization says that depression is the #1 cause of disability worldwide, with globally more than 264 million people who are suffering from this disease. That is a loneliness problem too, in some ways. That is a lack of connection kind of thing. And so we know that the antidote to that is much of what you're talking about. To me, it's not even just the soft skill. It is the recursive part of being in an environment and being around people. And we can look no farther than other countries to see what happens when you isolate groups, larger scales of, right, depression and suicide and those kind of things. So we really do have opportunities here in this community to bridge some of the global larger questions that you're asking. And I think with the work that's in front of the district, we're making small, good milestones along the way, making sure we're going through governance, having these conversations, using the data to enliven these conversations, and hopefully coming to you board with presentations on a regular basis that shows the project, the progress and the questions that we're answering. And so certainly the ones that you all trustees have raised tonight are very good ones for us and the team to consider.
Really well said, Chancellor. And that's part of the reason I'm really confident that we've got a really good team. So hard questions, but I wouldn't want any other team. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had just a couple more questions. Do we know the success rate of our dual enrollment students?
We do have a website that we publish course success rate and retention rate. So I would, we can look it up on the website if we want to.
I don't know across all, but I know for OUSD, it's about 85% success rate for our dual enrollment students.
So do we have any idea how many of those students are enrolling in four-year colleges?
Most of them, yeah. So less are coming to a 2-year college, right? And this is across the state. This isn't just in Peralta and with our feeder school districts. More if they're interested in going further and going into higher ed, they're going to 4-year institutions. That's true.
I'm just trying to figure out some of this information, where they're going
And I think philosophically, I think it's okay, right? I mean, I actually think if we can actually think about this in a way that we're lots of conduits to getting what we believe in higher education for our community. And so this is often a pathway to students to completing A through G or getting their AA degree while they're going to high school and being able to accelerate on their 4-year college learning journey. So I think part of it is us really planning expansively to understand that that population may not be the continued, populations that's going to continue into some of our programs for degree completion, and that maybe per trustee Johannes's conversation, right? How is the older adult population one that we're looking at it in a different way to support in that way? So, but statewide and nationally, that is the data with a lot of dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment students are actually doing it to accelerate studies.
And I think, the partnership that we have in the strategic planning that we're doing around developing pathways, I'm hoping that does help shift, bring in more males, but then also to strengthen the thread through onto our campuses, right? Because it doesn't have to be that you're going to a four-year institution. Oops, we have really powerful, as you know, workforce, career education on campus. Have a great impact on their lives. So I think it's all of that. If you
Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much for your work and your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So are we ready to adjourn the meeting?
I feel ready. I'd love to be with you all night, but I mean, these two we could stay all night. So we'll leave them here to listen to the researchers and then.
Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank
you
you,
again.
Alameda.
Thank you, College of Alameda.